Welcome back, everybody, to the G and Finn Show, coming to you live on 92.1 FM Rebel Radio from beautiful Oxford, Mississippi. I'm George Agiro.
And I'm John Finnegan.
And, I think we just have to get started with the obvious. Ole Miss played in Auburn this past weekend. Auburn comes away with the win, 20-14. It was a tight game on the scoreboard, but it just really wasn't that close the rest of the way.
That's exactly how I felt. And you know what? Going into Jordan-Hare Stadium, a stadium that's got a lot of magic, a lot of weird plays happen there, and a lot of weird games end there. But going up against 11th ranked team, a defense that's national championship caliber, an offense with a lot of question marks, but Ole Miss going in unranked, 3-6, Auburn 7-2 with losses to fantastic teams. Auburn very well could have been one of the best teams in the country. I think they deserve to drop in the rankings after this one, but this was an incredibly winnable, almost top 10 game. What are your main takeaways?
I've only got one. Well, I've got two main takeaways, but I think we need to get through some of the less important things first, stuff that focuses mostly on just this game. For now, I just want to say how good that defense looks. Mike McIntyre has this Ole Miss defense playing at an almost elite level. Sure, they let up about 500 yards, but that doesn't matter if the other team can't score on you.
No, and you know what? It's a defense that's suffered injuries at significant positions, guys like Momo Sonogo going down very early in the year. But McIntyre took this unit from an embarrassment to one that makes it's a darn good unit now. It's a really solid defense, and this Auburn offense has been good. It hasn't been electric, but it's been pretty good. And you know what? We held them scoreless in the first, scoreless in the fourth, and then to a touchdown and a field goal in the second and third. We held a top 10 team to 20 points in their stadium. That's fantastic. Hats off to Mike McIntyre and his squad for that.
Yeah, what do you have for your major takeaways? There's more I want to get into with this game, but I want to hold off on that because to me a lot of that, has bigger implications. What are you looking at just for this game?
So for me, I watched the full game. I watched all 60 minutes, and I regret every second of it. But this game was not as close as the score implies to me. We were in this game the entire time. The worst we were down 20-7 at the end of the third quarter. That is not insurmountable. That's a 2-score game with 15 minutes left to play, more than that even. But you know what? I don't think this game was as close as the score made it look. I never felt like we were in it until I realized this is the last drive of the game, and if we get 6 or 7 points, we're coming away with the win. But it didn't feel like we were in the game. I mean, for me, it was... you look at the just overall efficiency of each team. Really quick, total yards, 266 for Ole Miss, only 99 of those through the air. Auburn had 507 yards, 340 through the air. They threw 44 passes and completed over 66% of them, 8 yards per attempt. Rushing, they ran the ball 46 times to our 42. They also had the ball an awful lot longer, 36 minutes to our 24.
It's like a 13-minute difference there. That's kind of ridiculous.
That's a significant swing. That's a lot of time our defense stayed on the field, and they stopped them an awful lot.
Which, to me, that almost shows how well the defense played. They were on the field an extra 12, 13 minutes, and they were still getting stops late into the game.
Yeah, they let up a point every couple minutes. That is not bad for the amount of time they spent on the field. Penalties were good, but for me, this game was not nearly as close as it should have been. I think we held them to a lot of field goal attempts, and they missed a lot of field goal attempts. They had one fumble deep in our own territory that we recovered, one other that was gift wrapped that we weren't able to recover. But for me, it was they missed 3 field goals, and they fumbled once. I thought they were going in on that drive. I thought that was going to ice it. But if they make all their field goals, and let's say they attempt and miss one on that fumble, we're looking at 29-14 instead of a 1-score game. I don't think the game was as close as the score shows, but you know what? We were in the game to the end, and that is of no thanks to our offensive play calling. That is 100% Mike McIntyre's squad right there.
You brought it up. Is it time? Can I just get into this now?
Go for it.
Okay. It's time. I am not happy at all with just the coaching staff of this team, apart from Mike McIntyre, because he's taking a depleted, injury-filled young defense, and they are performing at almost the highest level that they can. If this defense was for any team with a competent offense, this team would likely be ranked, if not in the top 20 in the country. That's the thing. This game and all season, the run game looked fine. Snoop Connor, an emerging talent, like just downfield, head down through the middle. Ely, great on the outside. Fantastic. Our quarterback, John Rice, he just set a record for rushing yards in a season from an Ole Miss quarterback. Awesome. Good for him. However, the offense is not performing. Why? Because they're just not trusting, not they. Rich Rodriguez is not trusting our quarterbacks to throw the football to the fantastic skilled targets we have, like Elijah Moore, Mingo, Cooley, all of these great receiving talents just going unused. It's mind-boggling. I don't understand why. Just for this game specifically, 61% of Ole Miss's offensive plays were rushes. They still only picked up 167 yards.
Including our quarterback going for 92 of them.
Yeah. Just think about that. The fact that Rich Rodriguez does not trust our quarterbacks enough to throw the ball down the field seriously limits this offense to something that's so easily stopped simply because if a defensive coordinator, especially for a team that's as defensively talented as Auburn, they know that Ole Miss is going to run the ball. That just makes it easy pickings.
And it's something you've seen in the NFL a lot, especially with the Patriots defense that's been breaking records this year. It's the zero blitz. It's, hey, we're coming after you. We dare you to go over our heads with it. And you know what? When you look at John Rise and the limited playtime Matt Corral's getting, they know we can't beat him over the top. This game, one completion over 20 yards. One player had more than 3 completions. Elijah Moore had 3 completions for 14 yards. The only player with more completions was a running back, and he averaged 4 per reception. That is embarrassing. Over 7 different players, we completed 14 passes for 99 yards, less than 100 yards through the air, for a team coming off an offense that only had a passing game. We had a passing game and we had Scotty Phillips. Scotty Phillips, by the way, did not look 100%. He only got 1 carry.
He wasn't. There's no way he's 100%.
Yeah, so, I'm glad they didn't force
it.
it.
To keep him out.
We have the running backs to let our one of the older guys heal up, so good. But we had absolutely – it felt like we had no receiving core, and we do. They dared us to beat them over the top, and we either refused to try or we couldn't.
No, that's the thing. That last drive showed that we can. That last drive where that was all passing plays. There might have been a running play thrown in there. I don't remember just off the top of my head, but there was no time for Ole Miss to just run it up the gut every time. So they forced Rich Rod to, have the team go on some routes and throw the ball downfield, and it was working.
And it didn't end in a score. It didn't end in us winning the game, but it was one of the best drives I saw put together all game. It was one of the only couple times we even sniffed the red zone. And for me, what was most illuminating is Rich Rodriguez pioneered an offense of the early 2000s. We wanted that kind of innovation. I think he's refusing to change his game to the way the game's developed. One statistic I saw on TV, and I looked back, and this was true until the final drive. Final drive, of course, we had to pass it. On first down of about 20, low 20s, mid-20s first downs, only once before the first drive did we throw the ball. Sure, a lot of them were option plays where Plumlee chose to keep it himself or pitch it, but only once did we throw the ball on first down until the last drive of the game. It was run, pass. Maybe by the end of the game he got real aggressive. He went run, pass.
Whoa.
But you know what? It was the failure of us to even bother going through the air. Our leading receiver was a running back. Our receiver with the most receptions was a running back, and a different one.
Oh my God. It's really infuriating because even going into this game, it's not like this is a new thing happening just against Auburn. This has been happening all season. This Ole Miss offense ran run plays for 75% of their plays total. That's the most in college football And obviously, it's not working because Ole Miss's success rate is, if I'm not mistaken, in the bottom third of all of college football. The entire country. My question with this is when does this come back on the coaching staff?
And you know what? I think it comes back now. This is a game. I don't blame Matt Luke for this. It's not as much as a head coaching decision. He was praised for hiring coordinators. Look, we know Matt Luke's not an exceptionally experienced head coach. That's not what we were looking for when we got him. His clock management has been bad at times. I'm sure that's lost us at least a game.
I mean,
Cal comes to mind.
This one too, a little bit.
This one, clock management, not exceptional, but it wasn't the reason we lost this game.
No.
At the end of the day, the defense held Auburn to 20 points, and they kept us in the game the entire time. I think this was on play calling, which is Rich Rodriguez. It came down to the fact that he refused to throw the football against Auburn team whose run defense is exceptional. And for me, so I blame it on, for the most part, coaching. For the most part, coaching. For the most part, Rich Rod. How much blame do you put on the passing game? Both our quarterbacks completed about 50% of their passes. Corral only attempted 6. He got 13 yards out of it. Plumlee, 86 yards, good for a QBR of 40. I'm going to ignore the interception. We can talk about that decision in a vacuum, but the interception wasn't a straight.
No, it wasn't just a.
That wasn't just a bad
ball,
throw.
no.
That was at the end of the game. We'll talk about that a little later. But how much do you put on quarterback play, and how much is offensive play calling?
It's got to be on the play calling because if you look at it, there's little to no opportunity for them to even make the mistakes, grow from it, or throw the ball at all. Auburn has themselves a true freshman quarterback as well, Bo Nix,
who didn't have an incredible game.
No,
he had a strong game.
He had a solid game. He was good.
For me, because if you look at our QBRs, Corral obviously on limited snaps, smaller sample size.
He only threw 6 passes total.
He was in for and 9 runs of himself, good for, 3 runs, good for 20 yards. But at the end of the day, our quarterbacks had 14 and 40 QBRs. Bo Nix had a 56. That's not exceptional. That didn't blow the doors off our defense.
But it's because he didn't throw a pick or a touchdown.
Exactly. But we attempted 27 passes. Auburn attempted 44. And that was while they were leading for the vast majority of the game. They got 340 yards out of 44 passes. We got 99 out of 27. They were beating us through the air all night. We have a weakened secondary. We were expecting a performance like that. Maybe not as good. I think Bo Nix did a little better than I expected from him. But you know what? The defense kept him out of the end zone. With our backs against the wall, we forced him to kick field goals, and they kept missing them. Was he 2 of 5 on field goals?
I believe so. Yeah, he missed early in the game. He missed that one from 41, and then
one from 48 or 49.
49, yeah. And then I think he missed another from 49 later on.
Towards the end of the game, what would have made it a 2-score game?
Yeah, he plunked it off the post,
right off the upright. So you know what? I think I got to blame the play calling as well, because you know what? Plumlee's not an exceptional throwing quarterback. Maybe he'll develop into one, but
he's not getting the opportunity to do that.
No.
And that's the point that I'm trying to make.
And has your opinion changed? I know we've talked about it before, but the switching up of quarterbacks, one thing we saw a little bit against Alabama due to injury and some garbage time trying to get our future former quarterback recruit, Grant Tisdale, in the game. But we saw it a lot against Missouri. How do you feel now about switching up quarterbacks? Because it worked against Missouri. I felt like that was a part of the game that did work against Missouri.
Yeah.
How do you feel about it now?
So the thing is that we're not seeing it to the same frequency that we did against Missouri. Missouri, it was happening, it would happen 2 or 3 in the same sets of 4 downs, not even necessarily in one whole drive. They would make changes on the fly, and it would just be such a change for the defense. They wouldn't know how to adjust. We just didn't see that. It was, this drive is for Corral, or this drive is for Plumlee, and there wasn't. That gives the defense time to adjust and gets them ready for what they're going to face.
And that's kind of where I'm at. I don't know how much I want to blame, and I wish I could develop an opinion on it this late into the season. We've got 3 games left, but frankly, I don't know yet, because against Missouri, it felt like we did that, and it kept them guessing. It kept them on their toes. We would put in Plumlee, take a shot downfield. Then on like on 3rd and short, we put in Plumlee and have him throw a pass. Or on 1st and long, we put in Corral, put a couple guys wide, and let him run an option, and he'll take it. It felt like it kept him guessing then. This game, I didn't feel that. Maybe that's because Auburn's had more film on them. Maybe it's because the defense was prepared to see this, and they expected it, and they talked about it in film, and they talked about it in practice, but it wasn't working. I blame predominantly the offensive play calling for this loss. We were in the game. Props to the defense. And, our quarterbacks played fine, given the plays they had to run.
That's where I'm at. I mean, I think consistent close losses like these last few have shown that it's not the team that's the problem. There's, to me, an obvious problem with how the team's being deployed, what they're actually being allowed or being told to do on the field. I mean, as of right now, we all thought early in the season with the strong run game and the fact that we've got such a strong running core that the scheme, this will work out, this will be fine. That's not the case anymore. This scheme is not good. It's not working.
And you know what?
Rich Rod is reluctant to make a change at all.
What's most illuminating to me about that is good coaches have their scheme. Great coaches build a scheme around their personnel. For me, when you're given personnel, I mean, Plumlee is a guy who was basically designed and created a player by Rich Rodriguez to be the type of quarterback he likes to run the offense. He practically invented.
Yeah.
His incapacity to execute or incapability of executing with a quarterback that fits the strength, the alleged strength of Rich Rod's offense, for me, that's what kind of shows maybe he's stuck in the past. I think a change at offensive coordinator, or at least in the play calling responsibilities, I think one's in order. It's a little early to say. The season's not over. But this game, this loss to a ranked Auburn team on the road, in a very good Auburn team on the road that the defense kept us in. Everybody did their job on the field. For me, the problems were up in the booth.
It's not going to happen mid-season. It might not even happen this offseason simply because
No.
Rich Rod is brand new. McIntyre is brand new. We don't have a true athletic director right now simply because we haven't hired one. We're still in the interim. But something has to change. And I'm just disappointed to say that I don't think anything's going to change. And I think that's just a major issue. That, we're not just going to feel that this season. That's going to be a seasons to come kind of thing.
Yeah, and that's where I'm at. Do you want to run through just one of the positives you saw? Because I think this is about all I've got on this game for today.
Yeah, that's all I've got when it comes to negatives. I mean, again, like I said,
just a couple bright spots if you have
bright
them.
spots. Again, a running game. They played extremely well, I feel. Sure, they didn't get the yardage, but they're playing against, one of the top run defenses in the whole country. Like I said earlier, Ely, extremely talented. He'll be great out. He's great outside the tackles. He's great at catching the ball as well. And then Snoop Connor, once Scotty, either leaves for the draft or graduates, I think Connor will be there just to fill in those shoes perfectly. He's great between the tackles. I mean, his yards after initial contact, he's just picking up yard after yard just from driving those feet.
Yeah,
and that's really all I've got for this.
For me, I mean, running game's still strong. It's a fundamentally different team than it was last year. Last year it was an embarrassment of a defense, an embarrassing defensive scheming, and a great passing game that just wasn't enough. This year the defense is keeping us in the games, and all of a sudden we've got a strong running game, but we're struggling to beat teams through the air. That's been weird to watch, a team just so fundamentally change from an offensive passing team to a defensive running team in just one offseason. But for me, one bright spot is, the running backs, the young guys, they look good. I think the last drive showed us that we can win drives by passing the football. And you know what? Real quick, special teams. We didn't try any field goals.
Yeah.
We were never in a position to. We didn't get on that side of the field too often. When we did, we either got in or the game ended. But our return guys, Elijah Moore just returned one punt, but he got 55 yards out of it, set up a touchdown drive. On kick returns, Ely had 3, got about 24 each time. That's what you want out of it. And Mac Brown, good game punting the ball. I mean, that you don't want your punter to be a bright spot. Auburn punted 3 times. We punted 8. But he had a 57-yard punt. He had a good game. I think that kept him out of the end zone at least once, maybe more than once.
Definitely.
And you know what? Mac Brown, that's a couple of those field goals they had to try that they missed, so props to you. I think that's all we've got on this game. How do you feel?
Yeah, no, that's I'm tired. I'm tired of talking about just the ineptitude of the team that I root for. So we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back after this quick commercial.
And welcome back to the G and Finn Show. We're going to get right into it. We got some around the horn in college football, a lot going on other than the Ole Miss-Auburn game. And we're going to get into the NFL for last weekend and previewing this Monday and Thursday night game. George, what college games did you catch last weekend? What was your favorite one you watched? What was one that everyone probably should have turned their TVs off for?
One that got really interesting was the Notre Dame Virginia Tech game. That ended up going Notre Dame 21, Virginia Tech 20. That's just one of those games where you don't expect it to be as close as it was. And, I mean, it really was just a close, good football game.
It was a good game, and you know what? Virginia Tech was leading with 40 seconds left in the fourth quarter. Notre Dame had a heck of a drive, won the game. Virginia Tech couldn't make anything happen in the last 38 or so seconds. But one game, a lot of fun to watch. Could have been a better game, but number 8 on number 6, Georgia favored at the world's largest outdoor cocktail party.
Oh, yeah.
Wound up taking down number 6, Florida. Florida was down 26-3 going into the fourth. Or, I'm sorry, 16-3 going into the fourth.
They only put up 24, Georgia did.
Yeah, Georgia notched a touchdown and 2-point to make it a 2-score game. And Florida, 2 late touchdowns in the fourth, lost 24-17 in Jacksonville at TIAA Bank. That was a fun game to watch. And you know what? One that I think one of us, did we put Oregon USC on upset alert?
I did, because I just thought, USC, they're going to have that game. They were leading for a minute in that game, but Oregon just roared back.
Early in the second quarter, USC was up 17-0. Oregon scored 4 touchdowns in the second, 2 in the third, and 2 in the fourth to win 56-24. And you know what? They dominated them in every phase.
Yeah.
They let up 10 points in the first, let up 2 more touchdowns for the rest of the game, and they put up 56. Utah took down Washington.
Yeah, that game actually got more interesting than I expected.
Yeah, I was glad to have it on.
Good. Oh, yeah. I know Washington's really good, and so is this Utah team, but Jacob Eason, sure, he had 2 picks, but he had a solid game. 29 of 52, 316, 4 touchdowns.
Yeah,
He kept him in it.
That was a heck of a game for him. But for me, maybe my favorite game that I watched, SMU Memphis.
Oh,
College game day went there. Game day on Beale Street. I thought about going, wound up not being able to figure out the logistics of everything.
Yeah, it's a lot. Beale Street is just...
And you know what? It was packed. Beale Street can be crazy enough. Look, it's not Bourbon. It's not Broadway. But it's still Beale. And you know what? It was packed. Game day was there. Pat McAfee show was there. And you know what? High-scoring game. Great game. Both teams now 8-1 as Memphis takes down 15th-ranked SMU. SMU rallied late. They made it close. 24 points in the fourth to Memphis' 14. Memphis took it 54-48. But that was a good game to watch.
Yeah, I was really impressed by how well Brady White played. I'm not a big Brady White fan. I know a lot of people, focus on, how smart he is with the ball most of the time. But he had himself a game. 19-33 for 350 and 3 touchdowns, no picks. Between White and, if he can keep this up, and Kenneth Gainwell, this Memphis team realistically could win their conference.
I personally expect them to. And you know what? Shane, I may botch your last name, but Shane Buechele out of SMU, he had a great game passing as well. He attempted 54 passes, completed 34 of them, 450 yards, and 3 touchdowns. That was a very, very well quarterbacked game. Both Memphis and SMU with 2 receivers over 100 yards, and comfortably so.
Oh, yeah.
And not a single interception. SMU fumbled twice. Memphis fumbled once.
Neither went the other way.
Neither went the other way. And you know what? That was a good game.
It really was.
I've never been a Power 6 fan. I'm an SEC West fan, so I want everyone to get out of my yard. But these
was
teams,
a solid game.
And you know what? They're both 8-1. They're both going to be ranked still. You know what? That was a heck of a matchup. Props to College Game Day for choosing a really fun matchup and a new spot. I know some Memphis fans were upset it didn't go to Tiger Lane, but
I was just about to ask about that.
But I watched because it was on Beale Street.
That's the thing. I was about to ask you what you thought of that because, anytime that game day comes to Oxford, it's going to be in the Grove. Every time they go to Clemson, it's going to be on campus. Pretty much any time that game day goes to most, universities, it's going to be on campus. What do you think of it not being on Beale Street? Not being on Tiger Lane.
So for me, I'm a little bit of a college football purist. I love the bands. I love the on-campus. I think your stadium should be on campus. I think your tailgate should be on campus. And for the most part, I think, like, if game day or for us, SEC Nation comes, for us, we have the Grove, which is one of the most iconic tailgating spots, if not the most iconic in the country. It's never been a question. We've never thought, like, oh, what if they go to the Square? And the Square is fantastic as well, but it's always going to be the Grove. But for me, as a neutral fan when I'm watching college game day, with the way Ole Miss has been playing, I'm going to be a neutral fan for a little while when I'm watching. But I love that they're going somewhere a little unique, a little different. And, Tiger Lane, it's a good tailgate from what I hear. I looked into it a little bit because people were upset last week. I kind of like that they had on Beale. I know I made a point of watching it because I wanted to see what Beale Street was like with the college football atmosphere. I think it went well. Maybe Tiger Lane would have been more fun for the Memphis fans, but as a neutral fan, I enjoyed the heck out of watching college game day on Beale Street. That looked like a heck of a time. I had a couple friends who went, and they loved every second of it.
See, no, that's the thing. I feel like I might be a little bit different on that opinion. I don't think it really matters where game day goes. I think it should be where there's the most opportunity for fans to get involved and for, the experience to be enjoyed by everybody. Sure, I get Tiger Lane and it being on campus and things like that is important, but, Beale Street just has so much more than campus itself for Memphis. Thing is, in Oxford, realistically, there's not a whole lot around on game day other than the Grove.
No.
Game day is the Grove in Oxford, whereas game day can be both Tiger Lane and Beale Street in Memphis.
So for me, I like it. As a neutral fan, I think anybody that traveled to the game loved it. Maybe it wasn't as fun for the students. I can't say. I don't go to Memphis.
Yeah.
But you know what? All I can say is that was a heck of a time if you're a Memphis fan. Just the game and having game day in town for an AAC game. But I loved watching it. Anything else you liked watching around college football?
No, there really wasn't much. There was a little bit of news, though, coming out of Florida, and that's after Florida State lost to that's Miami, 27-10. The Florida State coach was fired, Willie Taggart.
After a pretty brief tenure.
Yeah, he wasn't there
with
long.
the Seminoles, around $16-17 million buyout, or not buyout, but paying out the rest of his contract.
Yep, it's essentially a buyout. Yeah,
yeah, for all practical purposes. So yeah, he's out. We'll see if he lands on his feet anywhere. Who do you think?
I'm sure he will.
Who do you think, if anybody, you've got in mind, FSU is going to target?
I'm not sure if FSU is going to target him per se, but I know that Florida Atlantic's current coach Lane Kiffin has expressed interest in taking Taggart's former position.
And you know what? I was hearing the same thing. But when we were on ad break, I was on Twitter just for a minute, and obviously I follow Lane Kiffin. That is some quality content, even if you're not an FAU fan.
Oh, he's something else.
But got tagged in a tweet. Yo, Lane Kiffin, let's win out the rest of the year, win the conference championship in our bowl game, then you can go to FSU. Sound like a deal? And Lane replied, no, let's do all that and stay right here, do it again next year. # come to the FAU.
Wow.
So maybe he's saying that just to keep the fans involved with him and keep them invested in him. He has expressed interest in the job before. It would be a step up as far as just prestige goes.
But at the same time, why would you leave Boca?
Exactly.
Think about that.
Come on. Well, I can think of reasons why someone would. I can't think of a reason why Lane Kiffin would leave Boca.
There you go.
So over in the NFL, some games on Sunday.
The early game was non-eventful.
Yeah, it was not worth waking up for.
No.
If you're a London fan, I'm sorry.
I mean,
you should be used to this.
Yeah, what bad football games come into your country?
And you know what? I did enjoy having 14 hours of games on, but I fell back asleep during the London game. And what was the final score of that game?
26-3 Houston. It was just a crushing loss for Jacksonville.
Yeah, and Jacksonville, a team that they've sent over to London an awful lot to try and get international fans invested in the team, but
that's actually a thing.
Yeah.
I'm serious.
Yeah.
I saw on the internet, it's weird that just because the Jags go to the UK so frequently, if you ask most people in London or a lot of people in the UK what's your favorite NFL team, they're going to say the Jags.
Yeah, and that's deliberate. They wanted to get, and they've struggled with attendance at TIAA lately. Less so this season,
They're
or
not
more
good.
so this season than normal. Well, no, they're not great, and Jacksonville is not a massive football town. But yeah, so tough if you're a Jags London fan, but you'll get over it. You'll be fine. One game I really enjoyed watching, Colts Steelers. Actually, a
That
lot
one
of
was
good
tight.
games this
there
weekend.
were a couple tight games that I did not expect them to be as good as they were. That one, the Minnesota-Kansas City game got tight there at the end.
Broncos Browns was fun.
Oh, yeah, even Seattle and Tampa. That went into overtime.
Seattle and Tampa was a lot of fun, especially as a DK Metcalf fan and a DK Metcalf fantasy owner and starter. DK notched a 53-yard touchdown to take the lead late. Bucks came back, went to overtime. DK had a great catch on the sideline for 28, maybe 30, 35 yards to set him up. Seahawks take it 40-34 in overtime. That was a great game. Other ones of note, Dolphins notched their first win of the season over the Jets with the Jets headed by former Dolphins coach Adam Gase. Should not have been allowed on the plane back to New York.
You just leave him in Miami.
But my
Don't
favorite,
let him come back.
yeah, honestly. But my favorite game of the weekend,
Is it what
Sunday
I think it
Night
is?
Football.
The night game. Sunday Night Football.
Patriots Ravens. A lot of fun to watch. Not as
Yeah.
fun if you're a Patriots fan, but you know what? You need to be taken down a notch in that case. Did you catch that game?
No, I didn't catch all of it. I was at getting some work done. But, I mean, I did catch a lot of the highlights from Lamar Jackson, and might I say, he is a highlight factory. Did you see him high-stepping into the end zone on that quick outrun?
That was beautiful. And,
Just great.
17 for 23, 163 yards, one touchdown in the air, 16 carries, 61 yards, averaging 2 touchdowns on the ground, no interceptions, no turnovers.
That's just a game.
And-
like,
And look, it's not like the Patriots played bad.
no.
They just got outplayed. I mean, Patriots spread it around on the ground between White, Michelle, and Burkhead, but nothing was really there for them. They had fewer than 100 yards on the ground. But receiving, 2 guys above 80, Edelman and Sanu, who they gave up a second round for. And Brady
Sanu
was
with his first touchdown for the team, actually.
yeah. And yes, and James White notched another touchdown. Brady was 30 for 46, close to 300 yards, touchdown, but he threw a pretty bad pick deep downfield.
Yeah, that one didn't result in too much. But thing is, this is just the way the Ravens have been winning all season. I mean, if you look at the difference in rushing yards, just that alone, their defense is just stuffing the middle, making sure the other team can't extend drives on the ground, can't take out huge chunks of the clock on the ground, and then meanwhile they're putting up 210 yards.
Yeah, it was just exceptionally well played game by the Ravens. And one thing that they brought up, they always have those Sunday night graphics, but Patriots haven't had a tough schedule to begin the season.
It's
they
been
fir-
pretty easy.
First game, Steelers, Ben goes down, 33-3 Patriots victory. Then the Dolphins, they blanked them. Then the Jets, the Bills was a one-score game. Patriots got held to 16, but held the Bills to 10. Then the Redskins, the Giants, the Jets again, and the Browns. So not too bad to start off the season.
Only one of those teams has a winning record, and that's Buffalo.
Yeah. And
It's-
and coming up, well, they had the Ravens yesterday. Then they'll play the Eagles, Cowboys, Texans, and Chiefs in the next few weeks.
And that's really where this Patriots team is going to have to show off what they're really made out of. Because, sure, they started out undefeated, but that's because they didn't play anybody. And Buffalo and New England, usually that goes New England's way anyway, even if Buffalo is a really good team this year.
Yeah, and you know what? Divisional games are always closer than they have any right to be. Just because you're used to the players, you've played against them before. The stadium's not anything new to players who've been on the team for at least a year. So they're always a little closer than they have any right to be. And Patriots still won that game. Look,
Yeah.
they're 8-1. Or I'm sorry, are they 8-1 or 7-1? 8-1. Ravens are 6-2 now. It's a very good Patriots team. I think the schedule coming up in the next few weeks, it's going to be a grind, a couple away games that are going to give them or deserve to give them a challenge. The next few weeks are going to be that test. Are the Patriots a 15-1 regular season team? Are they as good as they looked the first few weeks of the year against weaker competition? Or are they a team that very good. Look, I'm not saying they're very good. That's their floor is very good, and their floor is the playoffs. But are they as lights out as they looked against weaker competition? I think we're going to find that out against the Texans and against the Chiefs. We'll see how that defense goes up against guys like, look at the quarterbacks for the first few weeks. Who is the Mason Rudolph?
Yeah, Mason Rudolph is
Ryan
starting
Fitzpatrick, Luke Falk,
Yeah,
Josh Allen.
Wasn't even Darnold for that first
Luke
Jets
Falk,
matchup.
Josh Allen, Daniel Jones, Sam Darnold, and then Baker
All of them are young
Mayfield.
quarterbacks.
Won all those games. But now they go up against Lamar Jackson, lost. Carson Wentz, Dak Prescott, Deshaun Watson, Patrick Mahomes.
And those are all quarterbacks with a lot more experience, and at this point, I'd even say more talent than some of these younger quarterbacks that
Absolutely.
they faced at the beginning of the season.
Absolutely. They're all at least playing better if they aren't going to be better in the future. So, great job by the Ravens. It was close towards the end of the game. At the beginning of the fourth quarter, it was 20-24. Baltimore came away with a touchdown and a couple field goals at the end, ran away with it. So, hey, props to the Ravens. Great game. Tonight, it's Monday Night Football, so it's going to be an NFC East game that doesn't really matter.
It's got to be.
Cowboys travel to MetLife Stadium to take on the Giants. I don't really care, personally.
I don't think it's going to be a good game. As much as I root for the Giants to be good,
For me, it's less rooting for the Giants and more indifference to the Giants, and I want the Cowboys to lose.
that's fair. Daniel Jones has been meh. He's been fine. He's had some good games, some not so good games. Barkley's healthy, and he's the best running back in the NFL. Simple as that. As for the receivers on the Giants, Shepard's still out. Luckily, Golden Tate's back in. Evan Ingram has been performing pretty well. Two of the players that are questionable for Dallas could end up being a difference in this game. Those two being Anthony Brown, one of their starting corners, and then Leighton Vander Esch, who is arguably one of the better linebackers in the NFL right now.
Yeah, I think
especially at stopping the run.
Yeah, so from what I'm hearing is they're not expecting to have Van Der Esch, but as far as the corner situation, it's a little more up in the air right now. So we'll see. I think that could be a difference maker. It might be a good game. It's Cowboys-Giants. It's prime time. It's a rivalry game. But we'll see. I'm not particularly holding my breath.
No, neither am I.
Thursday, Chargers will travel to take on the Raiders. It's nothing crazy. It's a Thursday night game this year. None of them have blown the doors off me.
No Thursday night game. I don't think the Thursday night games are really chosen to be good games. They're just kind of like hey, look, football this week.
It's the middle of the week. There's a game on. Look, you're going to watch it.
Come on.
You're going to watch it.
There's nothing else to do.
So I think that's all I've got on the NFL today. So we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back for the last few minutes of the show.
Welcome back, everybody. We just have a little bit of time left on the air here on 92.1 FM Rebel Radio. Just as we were talking about the Patriots taking their first loss of the season, it really got me thinking about the fact that there's only one undefeated team left in the NFL, and that's the 8-0 San Francisco 49ers. And just as we said with the Patriots team, they've had a pretty soft schedule up until this point, and just now they're getting to this mid-season stretch, or this end-of-the-season stretch, where they've got a lot of difficult opponents coming up. And I think the same exact thing is the case for this Niners team. Up until now, the only teams that they've played that really would give them much of a challenge is they played at the Rams, beat them 20-7, and the Panthers, and they just absolutely dominated in that game. So, just looking ahead for the Niners, they've got the Seahawks twice, the Packers in Lambeau, the Ravens, the Saints, the Falcons, and the Rams again. I really feel like those games are going to be the litmus test for this Niners team, because at this point, I don't think there's any doubt that they're going to the playoffs. They've already got 8 wins. I don't see them losing to the Cardinals or the Falcons for that matter. This Falcons team is just in shambles.
But every other team they play is one of the better teams in the NFC.
Yeah, it will certainly be a test for this Niners team and this extremely young but dominant Niners defense.
Yeah, and you know what? Like, games I look at, the Packers playing incredibly well. They're one of the best teams in the NFC this year. Seahawks are lighting teams up. I mean, Russell Wilson making a decent case for MVP. They've got a heck of a stretch coming up for him. I think it's the same situation over in the NFC for the Niners as it is over for the Pats. Look, we know you're a very good team. You're undefeated, or Pats now with one loss. Now you got to show that you can beat the teams that are of the caliber of teams you're going to face in the playoffs. Do you deserve to be a 1 seed and then go 1 and out, or do you deserve to be there and maybe go all the way? We're going to see that.
And there's not a whole lot going on across the world of sports other than football this past weekend. So that's all we have for you guys today. Thank you for tuning in. My name is George Giro.
And I've been John Finnegan.
And this has been the G and Vin Show. We'll be right back here on 92.1 FM Rebel Radio, Friday at 6 p.m.